Hi guys, welcome again to my channel. My channel is all about helping widows, especially to grieve. I I've said before that this channel is there to help widows who are going through the grieving process. Once again, I've only been grieving for 6.5 months, so if you're further along or a bit behind, perhaps this can help you. Um, Today has been difficult because, of course, the tennis has been on, and normally Don and I would watch the tennis together. So I'd like to talk about triggers. Triggers are things that you and your husband would do together, normally that you would feel comfortable in doing. You would, um, you do things together, and then all of a sudden he's not there, and then little things like watching the tennis together triggers off emotions. Do you watch it? Don't you watch it? Do you want to watch it? Um, it's really really hard, isn't it, to explain how you feel. So I think as the days go on, you will feel these triggers coming on. It could be foods that you liked that you see. It could be walking past restaurants you went to. It could be games you used to play together. It could be words that people use. He always used to say, okay, how's the food, Don? It's okay. How do I look? You look okay. For Don, okay was the epitome of absolutely amazing. That was his epitome of an adjective for great. For me, how's the food? It's absolutely stunning. It's delicious. So I was a very expressive person, and he was the earthy type, average person. So when I hear the word okay, I'm like, okay, that's Don's words. So words can trigger emotions and feelings. Um, Sounds, music, events, and obviously dates, anniversaries, and things like that can obviously trigger off different emotions in you. I don't know if there's one solution to helping you get through. There's probably different various ways to get through. However, I'm just telling you from my experience. I do not profess at all to be qualified to give advice, but I do know that I'd like to share my experience. So these channels are not here to advise you on how to feel or what to do, but just to help you not to feel lonely if you are experiencing the same as me. So today was the tennis. I'd normally sit in the lounge and watch the tennis with Don, holding hands on the couch with a glass of wine. But of course, I didn't want to do that today, but I didn't want to miss the tennis. So I decided to go into the kitchen and clean the kitchen and cook whilst watching the tennis. So I kind of tricked my mind. I diverted myself from a different area. I still did what I enjoyed doing with Dom, but it was in a different setting. And I confused my mind. It couldn't focus on the one or the other. So I was doing two or three things at once. I was cooking pasta, and I was doing the dishes, and I was cleaning, and I was watching the tennis at the same time. However, I did switch off. So I did about half an hour watching the tennis. And I think I can pat myself on the back and say, well done. Um, and even if you just did 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I think what's important is you don't stop doing what you love, but of course at the same time you don't pressure yourself to do things that you feel uncomfortable in doing. Um, the other thing that I think is very um, important is if there is a trigger and you can feel yourself not coping with the trigger. The important thing is to stop, take a deep breath if you can, and own your feelings. If you feel you're going to cry or you're choking, say, okay, this is okay. I'm going to be okay, and I'm allowed to feel what I'm feeling. So yeah, some triggers will give you good sensations and reminders, but reality sets in, and of course there'll be triggers that upset you, hurt you, and there'll be some triggers some days you can cope with, and then other days there will be triggers that you can't cope with. But what's important is that you identify triggers, you sense how you feel about the trigger, and you try and either work with the trigger and not push against the trigger, and or maybe just to a degree embrace the trigger. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but if we keep forcing these triggers away from us and not allowing them to get close to us and working with them to a certain degree, there'll be certain triggers that right now you just cannot work with. However, I personally have found that embracing triggers to a degree, and I've mentioned this in my previous videos. If you can, please do watch them. I mentioned in my previous videos that I went to a restaurant. I was invited to a restaurant to eat out with my friends, which was really kind of them to invite me. However, I was only there 5 minutes and there was just too many triggers. And this is the other thing. The triggers just don't come in ones or twos. At that point, there was like maybe 10 to 15 triggers. The music, the talking, the conversation, the food, the friends that we went out with, the embraces they gave each other. So I couldn't cope and I needed to leave. So within 5 minutes of getting there, I left. At first, I felt really guilty, but at first I felt guilty,